Okay, so we are recording and we are going live now on Facebook. So here we go. All right, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to 3 days or day 3 of 3 days to breathe again. I'm so happy that everyone is here live. And if you're here on the replay, I'm so excited that you are also here. Day 3 of our program the theme is expansion. And in this program, we're learning how to navigate unexpected or unwanted change in our lives. So our theme today is expansion. And before we begin, I would like to review a few housekeeping items. Everyone has their video off and everyone's muted. If you have anything that comes up as we go through as I go through the conversation, the lecture portion, I guess, I don't really know if I like that term, but the lecture portion of our session tonight, of their class tonight, go ahead and type your comments or your questions or any clarification, anything you'd like to know more about in the chat box. At the end of about an hour, I'm going to open up the chat for any questions, and we'll have interaction at that point and let everyone share whatever they want to say. And welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. And what do we want to say? So if you don't already, I encourage you to have a notebook and a pen or a journal to take notes, and just we're going to settle into this group experience this evening. And what we're going to start with is lighting our Palo Santo. So we've been doing this on the other evenings as well. I really like it as a ritual to just help us clear the space, and then we'll take 3 breaths together. So we've got our Palo Santo lit. Sometimes it's nice to hold it upside down for a minute, let the flame go, and then we've got a really beautiful flame. So the element of air is all about transformation and rebirth, and we go through multiple rebirths and transformation in our life depending on what circumstances and life events and years unfold in our lives. And so we're just going to clear the space, clear the energy, create a community of circle of people that we're just going to share in this experience together as equals and be in this space here now. And I'm so grateful that everyone is here in this group together now. So we're going to share in this moment and just ground into our bodies for a moment. So if you, depending on what you're doing, if you could just pause for a moment and maybe place both feet flat on the floor and just kind of sit with a slightly elongated spine, a straight spine, heart is gently lifted, shoulders are down, and then just allow your shoulders to drop and just relax into your seat. Palms can be facing down just to ground or up to receive. It's totally up to you. And we're just going to close our eyes, or you can just look down. You can put your focus on the point between your eyebrows, as we did in holding our fingers here yesterday for the alternate nostril breathing that we did. And then we're just going to take 3 deep breaths. So take a breath in, and then exhale, letting any worries and concerns go. In this moment, there's nothing that we have to do other than be here now. And then take another deep breath in, and then exhale. Just letting the day go. Just creating this sacred space for you and for this group so that we all can be here together. And then one more deep breath, allowing the belly to rise on the inhale, and then exhale, and the belly falls on the exhale. And we just come into this present moment And the reason it's called the present moment is because it is a gift. This present moment is a gift. That is why it is called presence. That is why it is a present. Okay. So we are going to discuss expansion this evening. Just to review the last 2 days, day 1 was about surrender. Day 2 was about embodiment. And now day 3 is about expansion. And we're using these as basically themes to help us understand how to navigate and transcend and explore the inner journey by being as gentle with ourselves as possible as we embrace change and, maybe unwanted circumstances in our lives, or just allowing ourselves to be more deeply in the inner journey. And what does that mean and how does that look? It really just starts with being in the space of now, being here now. Ram Dass, back, I would say in the 70s, he wrote this book. This book's been around for a long time. It's Be Here Now. And that was a really pivotal book for the times. And it still stands today because it's such an important lesson and it's so simple, yet it's so difficult. So I'd like to just share the reason I came up with the 3 themes for each day, the surrender theme, the embodiment theme, and the expansion theme. Those come from my book, Awakening Your Feminine Spirit. And the book is broken into 3 sections, and each section is sacred surrender, sacred embodiment, and sacred expansion. And so I just like to show you what it looks like inside the book. At the beginning of Sacred Expansion, which is our theme for day 3, I'm just going to read to you the quote that I placed in the front of the section for Sacred Expansion. And we'll use that as our opening for this evening. Once, when you thought no one was looking, I saw you open your heart so wide that the earth fell in. Once, when you thought no one was listening, I heard you sigh so deep that the oceans roared with support. Once, when you thought no one was around, every atom in the universe rushed forward to embrace you. Again, thank you for existing so intensely, Sarah Beek. So Sarah Beek is one of my favorite spiritual teachers and author, and a woman that I've really admired her work. And so that book is filled with all of my favorite quotes. And so I strategically placed them in their own portions of the book to go with what I was speaking about in the book. And just thought that that would be a great way to open this evening. So as I've done with every day so far, I'd like to share a little story with all of you, just to talk about my personal experience with expansion. One of the stories in my life where I had a true expansion in my life. And basically what that was my decision to attend a yoga teacher training in Costa Rica. So basically what happened was I was in Costa Rica with a boyfriend that was a surfer, and we were there together, and we were staying at a surf school, and he was busy surfing, and I decided, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to find the community yoga class. So I start walking around trying to figure out where it is. And on the first day, I couldn't even find it. Like, I thought I knew where I was going, but I didn't know where I was going. And then on the second day, I explored a little more, and I was determined there's no way I'm not going to find this place. And so I eventually found the entrance to Nosara Yoga Institute. And when I walked in, I just felt this, the only way I can describe it is like this mystical essence of a place. Like there was just something really powerful and tangible about the energy of being in the land of the jungle and then walking through the trails to get to where I eventually found the main studio where they were doing the yoga. Well, first I came across the yoga teacher training that was going on, and then I found the other area where the community yoga classes were. So when I got there, I found all of these students doing a yoga teacher training, and I just had this immediate sense that I was supposed to be there. But I looked on the schedule and they were already on day 2. And I thought, oh no, I missed it. Like, I'm supposed to be here. And so they were all in Shavasana. So I knew that they were at the end of their training, and I was just waiting until everyone left. And I had gotten there about 30 minutes early. So I just sat on a bench and waited. Eventually everyone got up from Shavasana and left. And I walked toward the door, and the owner of the institute, his name is Don Stapleton, and his wife Amba, he came over to me, and he thought at first that I was there. He said it looked like I was already in the training with them, and he didn't know everyone yet because everyone was still new because they were only on day 2. And I just said to him, I just feel like I'm supposed to be here. And he said, don't worry, because I was actually honestly upset that I wasn't there. And he said, don't worry, you will be here at the exact right time. And I'm really grateful that you're here right now. And so I went to the yoga class after that and had a great experience doing that. And then I just had this knowing that I needed to be there. And then everything aligned and everything unfolded to where I was able to go for the next training, which was only a month later, which was a huge blessing in my life. And that experience was a tremendous expansion for me because I was in an experience in a foreign country. Now, granted, I had been there before, so that part wasn't as scary. I had 2 roommates that I had never met before. I had to share a room with one, and then the other one had her own bedroom. And then I was in this immersion with 50 people that I had never met. And, trying to learn, maybe what to do about meals, and should I cook all my meals or do this meal plan, and, all these other things. And then that was just the physical logistics of that experience. But then as I went through the yoga teacher training, we basically did yoga 3 times a day. And it was just such a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual experience. And we started out like 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. was the first yoga class. Then we had a break. Then the middle was the chunk of learning how to teach asanas, what the asanas were, what the Yoga Sutras were. And then the end was usually like this really gentle yin style or restorative style, or this almost meditative experience of yoga where we would just lay on the mats and maybe move a knee up and then down. And it was just like, and then see if you could move it a little further and then down. And what was really interesting about going through this experience, 1, I didn't have a car. 2, I didn't have a phone. So the only way I was able to contact home, there was a local coffee shop that I could make phone calls and call home. 3, I didn't have a computer, so I had to go to the internet cafe to check emails. And I didn't even have a bike, so I walked everywhere. And as you can imagine, I was probably at that time in the best shape of my life too, because everywhere I went, I walked. I was eating, rice, beans, lean protein, vegetables, lots of vegetables and salads, and plantains, which were one of my favorite things, and all the tropical fruit. That's what I did. So it was literally one of the best experiences of my life. But it also was expansive because it took me out of my comfort zone. It took me out of what was familiar, around all people that I didn't know. And And what I started to experience in that was not only the experience of diving into yoga and realizing that I could actually get a PhD in yoga and still not fully know yoga. I realized after that experience how expansive yoga was, but also I started to tune into energy, and I started to feel energy. And I remember there was an experience where we were doing something and sitting, and our instructor said, is anyone in this room feeling like a spinning energy? And I was sitting there feeling like this, like I'm like not a spinning where it's scary, but just a gentle circular, I would say maybe a spiral energy. And me and one other student was feeling that out of the 50. And so I thought that was interesting. And then there were other times I was laying on the mat and I felt like I was being just like heart opening, heart lifting, heart expansion. And it's really hard to describe some of it, but that's the best that I can describe, with just the profound beauty of that experience of being immersed in the jungle, being immersed in nature, being immersed in being so fully in my body on a daily basis, and much more in connection to the natural world and my breath, and obviously my body through the yoga, and then the connection with my other classmates in the training. It was just one of those experiences that I will always be grateful for. So that is the experience I wanted to share this evening about expansion. Okay. So there's so many things that I want to share with you guys, and I feel like we don't have enough time, but we do have enough time, because really time is just an illusion at a certain level. And everything that is going to come through this evening, I feel, is going to be perfect. And then there will be more opportunities after this evening that I would like to share. So if you happen to need to go off the call early, please listen to the end, but I will have an opportunity of what's coming next that I would like to share. Okay, so let's go into the lessons that I would like to share with you guys this evening. So the first one is, when I think about expansion, what I would like you to do is, maybe in your journal, think about writing down the word expansion, or what is expansion to me? And just kind of think along those lines as we go through this together. So when I think about expansion, I think about going back to what we covered a little bit in day one, is this omega chart of consciousness and the emotional state. And basically they've been assigned a numerical value. So at the bottom, we've got the densest human emotion, which is shame. And shame is immense. It is surrounded by judgment. So shame is, if you think about that, we live on a planet of density. This is third dimensional consciousness that is on planet Earth, and we are transitioning into fifth dimensional consciousness. And that's not really a conversation I really want to get into a lot, but basically just wanted to share that's where we're at. We're in 3D, we're moving through 4D, which is time, and into 5D, which is much more expansiveness. We're moving more into that age of Aquarius, and the connection, and the more unity consciousness, and the love consciousness. And so we're transcending the density of shame, okay? So in order to transcend the density of shame, it means being with whatever comes up, whatever rises to the surface that may feel heavy or judgment focused. I remember growing up, like my grandma used to say, shame, shame, shame. And that was just her joking, but it just, to me, really shows how present shame is in our culture. Shame has been truly the densest, most difficult human emotion. Okay, so then I'm just going to go up from shame. So then we have guilt. So shame's at 20, guilt is at 30, then we have apathy and grief. So grief is higher, right? So there's really, really good processing and allowing. When you're releasing, grief is a process of releasing. So that's why it's higher. Then we go into fear. Fear is where, again, a lot of humanity is caught because we live in a very fear-based world. A lot of our buying decisions or our daily decisions are based in fear. Fear is at 100. Then above fear is desire, which is kind of interesting. And then we have anger above that, and then pride, and then courage. And then at 250 is neutrality. So I think neutrality is a really good place to try to be. It's that middle ground. It's like, can I be in the place between the polarity of dark and light, of right and wrong? Can I be in that neutral place? And then it just kind of takes away the needing to be right and wrong, needing to pick sides. Can I just be in neutrality? A lot of times I think that that's an appropriate question to ask, depending on the situationality. How can I be in neutrality? And then from a place of neutrality, I'm allowing myself to be open enough to listen and discern what is true for me. And that's what I think is really key about judgment. If we can translate judgment and move it into discernment, then it's a different energy. Because discernment to me is very clear and has boundaries, but it's not bundled up under the density of shame. Okay, so then above that, 310 is willingness, and then 350 is acceptance. So I think acceptance is a really good energy to start to come into, accepting everything as it is. So I'm going to set this down for a second, and I'm going to transfer over to this. So let me put it in a place where you guys can see without the light. Okay, so this is a surrender card. The light I know is shining on it, and I'm trying to make it where it's not so shiny. I got it from this deck, The Power of Surrender by Dr. Judith Orloff. Judith Orloff is a physician. She is a psychiatrist who is also an empath. And she's written many books to help bridge the gap between the physical medical industry and the energy world, and helping doctors understand how to use their intuition more and how to bring more empathy into their practice, and how to help empaths, which are highly sensitive people that feel other people's energy and emotions and carry that on, and sometimes can't discern between whether it's their own emotion or someone else's emotion. Her work is all about that. Understanding energy vampires, understanding how to keep your energy clear. One of the ways to do that is with saging and smudging. Okay, so I pulled a card from this deck this evening for the group, and I just asked the question, basically, of my higher self or my guides or God. I basically asked the question, what is the message needed for the group this evening regarding surrender? So again, surrender was our theme of day one, but I felt it appropriate for this evening to pull this card. Okay, I'm going to read it to you. Surrender denial. Accept people and situations exactly as they are, without denying the difficulties. Then you can see things clearly and make the best decisions. I love this card. And to be honest, I've had this deck for years and I've never pulled this card. So the fact that I pulled it this evening for this group really tells me that this is a message for this group. Okay, so I'm going to read the card again. Surrender, denial. Accept people and situations exactly as they are, without denying the difficulties. Then you can see things clearly and make the best decisions. What I really like about that is it's not trying to sugarcoat or pretend that something's not difficult. It's not trying to maybe see the best in someone else and then always get backstabbed, which is my experience that I've had with particularly one person in my life. When we fully accept people and situations exactly as they are, we are in the reality of what it is. So that is acceptance. And then when we don't deny that it's difficult, then we allow ourselves to feel everything that comes up as it surfaces, as it arises, because when anything arises to the surface, when you feel that trigger, when you feel that energy of frustration, anger, it's basically there for you to see it, hear it, and acknowledge it so that it can be healed and released and integrated really as an aspect of you. Because it's only when we deny and push away and ignore and pretend it doesn't exist that it keeps coming to the surface over and over and over again until we actually face it. It's like looking at it straight in the eyes. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to play this game anymore. I've got this. I've got me, and I'm going to look at you. I'm going to look at the situation, and I'm just going to face it head on. And whether that means that I pray, I write a letter, I scream, I take action in some way, that is the form of surrender that I'm talking about here. It's accepting that you don't always know why things happened the way they did. And that is an action, to take action, to just say, you know what? I'm going to stop trying to figure this out, and I'm just going to accept that we can't always understand why things happen the way they do. Okay. And then we can see things clearly and make the best decisions from that point. Okay. So then we go back to this. Acceptance is at 350, okay? And the energy of acceptance is in this color blue. So the green is the heart center. So when we're moving up, we're really moving into this higher level, right? This higher level of consciousness and awareness. Consciousness is really awareness. So is presence. Presence is being aware and being in the here and now. It's not being caught up in the mind. Okay, so then 500 is love, the energy of love. 540 is joy. 600 is peace, and 700 is enlightenment. Okay, so what does that mean? And how do we expand into the energies of those higher consciousnesses? Okay, so one of the ways that we do that is we recognize our triggers. Okay, so I'd like to show an example of a trigger with my hands. Okay, so let's imagine that this is a trigger. Okay, you're triggered by something that comes up. You know, somebody says something to you, you receive an email, a situation happens where you feel betrayed, hurt, belittled. Something causes you to feel overwhelmed or upset in some way. Okay, so that would be the trigger, and this is the trigger. the typical response that humanity has had for a while, for a long time, each of us individually as well, when we're less aware, is to react right away, right? Trigger response. And trigger response is, I'm going to just yell back, or I'm going to, immediately respond to that email, or I'm going to say something not so nice back. I'm going to just fight, run, or freeze. It's kind of that response. So the trigger, the way to create freedom in your life and to be in those higher vibe places. So we want to focus on being high vibe. That's a good thing to write in your journal, is how can I be high vibe? What are the ways to become high vibe? And we'll talk about that more, but it's like being in the energy of joy, eating healthy foods, having more play in your life, doing things that are fun, reconnecting to that inner child wonder, and we're going to get more into that. But those are high vibe examples: dancing, playing, creating. Okay, so we've got the trigger and we've got the response. The way to create more peace in your life is to create distance between the trigger and the response. Okay, so rather than them being a reactive response, we want to create distance, which is basically creating time and space between what happened and how we respond. Now, obviously, in an emergency situation, that's not an option, and you have to respond immediately, and we all know that. But I'm just saying it because it's obvious, but I'm just going to say that. Okay, so when it's a non-emergency situation, like you got an email or somebody has been doing something that you need to address, you need to say something to someone, okay? You've got the trigger, you create some space, and then you respond with wisdom. You have instead of a reactive response, you have a reflective response. So you take time to come into your body, to come into your heart, to be present, and you ask the question, how can I be more loving in this situation? And maybe if you can't be more loving to that person, how can I be more loving to myself? And being more loving to yourself also means not to react, because when you react, you're giving your power away. And then, words become like vomit, and you're just projectiling out, and you're not really owning your power and your presence and your center. A really good thing to think about too is, how can I be in my center? And I really think the center point in our bodies really is more the belly button, the solar plexus. If you think about the belly button, that's where we were all connected to the placenta with our mother when we were in utero. The belly button is our core. Anytime you're doing Pilates or any kind of real workout, it's really good to work the core. So that is our center. So how can I drop down and be in my center? How can I respond from a place of love, loving myself first, so that I don't just give my power away, and handle this very gracefully and with ease, and where it just feels right. That when you know what to do, you'll know what to do. And so you wait for that time so that you have a more wise, reflective response rather than the reactive response. And again, everything starts with each of us individually. So when you start with you, and you can do these things with you, imagine if everyone in our world then did that. And obviously, we're not responsible for how other people respond. We're only responsible for ourselves. But then by you responding in a wise, reflective, centered space, then you teach others through your presence. You teach others through your actions. Okay, so from there, we're going to move into having integrity. And basically, the first part that I'd like to discuss as it goes into having integrity is the Four Agreements. If you've never heard of the book, The Four Agreements, I basically consider it a book that every single person should read. It's The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. He was born, as far as I know, in Mexico. He was trained, I know, as a Western medical doctor. And then he went back to Mexico to learn and rediscover his Toltec roots in Mexico. And he learned from the medicine men, the shamans down in Mexico. And then he started to take a more integrative approach to his life. He started to understand the deeper connection to physical illness and the emotional component and the spiritual component that is right now currently not in the Western medical paradigm. And I really think that we're going to start to see a bridge of Eastern medicine and Western medicine coming together as a more integrative, holistic approach. And we're starting to see that. The University of Arizona has the integrative medicine program. University of New Mexico does. Other schools do. Stanford University is studying mindfulness. So is Harvard, studying yoga and mindfulness and how to bridge all of these things in. So we're in exciting times when you look at it that way. But going back to the Four Agreements. So the agreement number one is be impeccable with your word. So basically what that means is speak with integrity. And what speaking with integrity means is when you say you're going to do something, have your actions and your words align. And with anyone in your life, pay attention to actions over words, right? As long as the actions and words align and someone says what they're going to do, what they say they're going to do, then you know you can trust them, right? And Maya Angelou used to say, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. So that goes back to this card. You know, accept people as they are. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Okay, so be impeccable with your word means speak with integrity, say only what you mean. So don't say it if you don't mean it. Don't say it if you don't mean it. And don't worry about people pleasing. Again, we're going to throw the weed of people pleasing out. Like it's going out the door. It's done. It's over with. It's not working anymore. It's done. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. So speaking judgmentally to yourself, you know, and gossiping about others, those are lower vibrational energies, right? And we want to use our word, and is thinking about, again, our theme for this evening, expansion. We want to use our words for positivity. You know, we want to wake up every day and see the world as a beautiful place and say, you know, I am blessed to be here today. I am blessed to be alive today. And I honor this day. And I open to the gifts that are going to unfold for me today. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. So I really am starting to bring more prayer back into my life. And I feel that, you know, prayer obviously is a very powerful thing. That is one thing that we have always been taught. And I really do believe that. So along the lines of being impeccable with your word, I'd like to share, we're going to go into this in a second, but our next program that I'm going to be offering is using my workbook, Awakening Your Feminine Spirit, Finding Balance, Purpose, and Strength. But we're going to get to that in a minute. It's a 7-week program, super exciting. But what I'd like to read is the the morning prayer out of this book. And again, this goes with being impeccable with our word and using our words in the direction of truth and love. And I wrote this prayer to speak, but also edit and modify however you wish. But I just like to read it the way I wrote it. Dear Mother, Father, God, I give this day to you. Thank you for this day, as it is a blessing and a gift. This is already a great day. Fill and surround me with your protective and compassionate light to carry with me throughout my day. Remind me to stay present and centered in you. Hover over me when I struggle. Help me notice I am guided and protected by my spiritual team of the highest and best light and love at all times. Help me stay focused on love and light in each person, situation, and thing I encounter today. Give me the security to trust my intuition and gut instincts. Give me the courage to take appropriate action when needed. Give me the strength to surrender what I cannot control. Give me the wisdom to know and see beyond the veil. Thank you, and so it is. Amen. All right, let's light our sage. So I invite you to explore prayer in your life. I invite you to bring prayer back in whatever way that means and unfolds for you. You can also use traditional prayers like Hail Mary or Our Father, whatever resonates, whatever you love, whatever you want to do. It's a practice that I invite you to re-enter into your life. Okay, number 2 of the 4 agreements is don't take anything personally. This is a huge, big one. Don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. Huge. So think of it this way. We're all in our own movie. Okay, we're all the main actor in our own movie, and everyone else is supporting actors that come in and out of our lives, right? If someone says something to you, whatever they are saying to you, they're right because they're believing it from their reality. Whatever their perspective is, from their own conditioning, their own stories, their own belief system, their own mind, thought patterns, their concepts. You know, there are people that just completely shut you off, close their heart, and decide this is who you are, and I'm not going to even be open to to being more curious about seeing you as a soul, as an expansive being, because they're not in that place. So don't take anything personally because they're doing the best that they know how to do from their own projection of their own reality. Huge, huge, huge. I've had to read that section in that book numerous times at certain points of my life just to remind myself not to take it personally. And I would say that some of the most difficult people in our life are our greatest spiritual teachers, truly. Okay, number 3, don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstanding, sadness, and drama. And if you do just this one agreement, you will completely transform your life. Don't assume you know what someone else is thinking. Don't make assumptions. Just recognize that they're thinking whatever they're thinking. And as long as you speak your truth with clarity and you don't assume that they know what you're thinking, as we know in relationships of all kinds, especially romantic relationships, and even parent-child relationships, there's a lot of assumptions that come in. Here, I have a really good way to express and communicate more consciously, using a tool that I discovered called nonviolent communication. Basically, it's you ask, what is alive in me? And you express from a place of how you feel and what your needs are, and not directing it at belittling or name calling the person. So let's say someone is just throwing clothes on the floor and never picking up, or leaving a mess a lot. Okay, so let's say a messy room, a child with a messy room. Let's use that as an example. Because anytime we use always or never, it's usually not right, because always and never really almost never ever would happen, right? But we go straight to always or never because we want to be right, right? The ego wants to be right, and the ego wants to own things. So if you know that you're in your ego, you are in one of those two places. You want to be right or you want to own things, okay? But if you can come into don't make assumptions, and how do you communicate what you want and need by recognizing what is alive in me. So here's how you would communicate with somebody. Okay, a child that has a dirty room, you would say, when you leave your clothes on the floor, or not even that way, when I see a messy room, when I see mess everywhere, it makes me feel anxious. It makes me feel overwhelmed. It makes me feel uncomfortable. It makes me feel as if my home is not respected or a sanctuary. And I would just ask that, because we share this space together, and even though I may not share your room, I'm asking that you recognize that for me, just seeing the room being a mess makes me feel not valued or not respected, overwhelmed and anxious. And I'm just asking you to do your best to keep it picked up a little bit more. Throwing food away, cleaning up, keeping the floor clean, being really specific about what it is that you like, and finding that middle ground, that place of neutrality where you can, feel that your needs are being met, but then also not by belittling or name calling the other person. So that's just an example. Okay, number 4 of the 4 agreements is always do your best. So your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you are healthy as opposed to sick, and under any circumstance, simply do your best, and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. Okay. So the last thing I would like to talk about today before we go into questions is, how do we really tap into that expansive place of innocence and creativity? Is we really tap into that inner child. We tap into that inner child of wonder and curiosity and play. And I found an article by Catherine Pearson. It was published in 2014, July 5th, 2014, online through the Huffington Post. And it's Childlike Wonder and Awe, the Inner Child. So basically, Catherine's recommendations I really liked, so I want to share them with you today. She basically said the way to connect to the inner child is to put yourself in unfamiliar situations. So again, like I said earlier, stepping out of your comfort zone, being willing to try something new. A lot of the time, I feel in the United States, we're basically in like a hamster wheel cage. We're in a little box. We stay in this square mile parameter. That's the box, depending on how big the box is. And then we're on a hamster wheel doing the same things over and over and over again. How can you break up your routine? That's a good question. Could write that in your journal. How can I break up my routine? How can I do something different? What is something new that I can try? What is an unfamiliar situation that I can put myself in? And being willing to step out of your comfort zone is where you really have the most magic happen. That's when you open more to allowing the universe to bring into your life which you never knew was even possible. You know, we have this idea that it has to come a certain way, or it has to be in this box. The only way I can have this is only if I make this much money. But what if it comes a different way? You know, put yourself in unfamiliar situations and stay open to receive. Receptivity, I would say, is one of the biggest shadows I've seen, especially in women, is this blocking of the ability to receive. And that probably is rooted in not feeling worthy enough, not wanting to burden anyone. But, you know, just as we all know, when we give, we feel good. And if we can have that equal feeling of giving and receiving, it's this beautiful balanced energy of being in the world. How can you be more you in the world? Okay, number 2, embrace, explore learning and not exploit learning. So not exactly sure what she meant by exploit learning, but I really like exploring. I like the idea of exploration, just like travel. How can you explore learning? What do you want to learn? You know, we have, in this age of technology and information, anything you want is pretty much available at your fingertips. You can find workshops, retreats, online information. Everything is available. So if you don't know how to find it, start asking, start researching, start looking. Number 3, pick up a creative hobby. That's pretty self-explanatory. Go to Michael's, walk around, or Hobby Lobby, or, you know, any craft store. Or, you know, what is it that you maybe used to do when you were a child? How did you create when you were a child? And how can you bring that creativity back in your life now? You know, we really are here to create, co-create with God. When we tap into that creative energy, every artist would tell you this. They're really not coming up with it all on their own. They get in a space and inspiration comes through. You know, sometimes it's unexpected. Sometimes they've prepared the space a little bit, but they get inspiration. Inspiration is to inspire. It's inspire. And to me, that's coming from the divine. It's coming from God. Number 4, look up. Look up at the sky. Look up at the clouds. You know, can you see animals in the clouds, dragons in the clouds? Can you look up at the sky at night and look at the moon and the stars? Number 5, spend time with kids. Kids really help us really reconnect back to that inner child and help us stay in that youthful, curious, vibrant, fun-loving energy. Number 6, do one thing mindfully every day. One thing I wanted to talk about with mindfulness, we talked about it yesterday a little bit with being in your body, earthing, walking on the earth, so you can walk more mindfully, just feeling your feet step on the ground. You can eat more mindfully, be really mindful of every chew, be mindful of the bites, and enjoy it. Like, experience the pleasure of food again. Allow yourself to really just savor it. You know, mindfulness is really about its awareness of the present moment without judgment. And it's also this gratitude and appreciation. How do you be in gratitude? You know, we can't be in judgment and gratitude at the same time. If you're in gratitude, you're open and you're expansive and you're thankful for everything that you have. And then that allows more good to come in. Number 7 is do one thing every day just because. And number 8 is jot down the good stuff. So that's being in gratitude. You can start keeping a gratitude journal, like write down a couple things a day, every day. 3 things I'm grateful for because I'm grateful for, you know, the simplest things. You know, start with your bed, start with your family members, start with fresh, clean water, start with electricity, having shelter, then move on to other things. You know, I'm grateful for this rock. Like, I think this rock is really beautiful. It was created by someone that owns a shop on Etsy called Inner Sasa. And I just love the way it feels. And I love the shamrock. I wrote down that luck is where preparation meets opportunity. So that's what luck is. When preparation meets opportunity, when you're ready and prepared and then an opportunity arises, that's luck. Okay. And sometimes luck just comes out of nowhere too, right? You don't have to always be doing something. I'm not saying you have to do anything, but if you are prepared to receive it, because, you know, that's another thing, like we may, going back to receiving, block it. But if you're prepared to receive, you open your energy more, you open your heart more. You know, this mudra we talked about the other day, the offering of flowers. How can I receive more? How can I be grateful for everything in my life? So I do recommend that. I recommend prayer and I recommend a gratitude journal. Okay, here's another question for your journal, and then we're going to open it up into the questions. Write down what you loved to do as a child and think about, what do I really want? What do I really want? And a good question is also think about, what is my why? What do I want and why do I want this? And what would you do if you had no inhibitions? If money was no object, what would you do? Who would you be? Where would you go? What are you more interested in learning about? There's a book that was recommended to me. I was just seeing if I had it right here, but I don't immediately. It's called Ask and It Is Given, Learning to Manifest Your Desires by Esther and Jerry Hicks. I recommend that as a resource. And now, before we open up to questions, I would like to go into this. So this is my journal based on the book. So I wrote Awakening Your Feminine Spirit, and these all came out 3 years ago. Okay, so Awakening Your Feminine Spirit, and then I came out with the journal. Okay, so this is a workbook, and I'll basically go through, it is 7 weeks. So 7 times 7 is 49. It is 49 days of practices to help you tune into awakening your feminine spirit. What does that mean? It means stepping more into the energy and the vibration of being more fully in your body, being more alive, feeling that sense of aliveness in your life, connecting to your intuition, connecting to play and pleasure and dance and fun and creativity, and going through the energy centers of the body, the 7 chakras. So I'm going to show you this again. These are the 7 energy centers of the body. Number 1 is to be here. That's the root chakra. Number 2 is the sacral chakra, and that's to feel. Number 3 is to act. Number 4 is to love. Number 5 is to speak, the throat. Number 6 is to see, the third eye. And number 7 is to know, that divine connection. It's the crown chakra. Imagine you're wearing a crown and you have this connection to the divine, a direct connection to source energy, a direct connection to God. We are going to go through a program of 7 weeks, meeting once a week, doing a Zoom call similar to this, but it's going to be more interactive. This is set up a little more lecture style. This program is going to be more interactive. So basically what we're going to do is you're going to need the workbook and you're going to go through the daily practices in the workbook, and we're going to do it as a group. And then we're going to meet once a week on Zoom on Tuesday evenings from 6 to 7:30 Mountain Standard Time, 8 to 9:30 Eastern Standard Time for 7 weeks, starting on March 16th, 2020, and ending the last Tuesday of April. I believe it's April 28th, 2020. So it goes for 7 weeks. Let me just confirm that. I should know that because we've been setting this up. Yeah, April 28th. Okay, so basically what I'm offering is if you sign up for this program, okay, so it's 7 weeks, it's a group page just like we have right now going in Facebook. It'll be a separate private group where we're going to have, you know, discussions, interactions, even more engagement and fun going on in the private Facebook group, plus the weekly Zoom calls. And you're going to have the workbook to work through every single day to help you really tune back into your body, into your energy, and to your feminine essence. And basically what the program is if you sign up by midnight tomorrow, I'm going to give you the workbook for free, and you're getting $75 off the program. And it's going to be $222. So 7 weeks at $222. I'm going to put the link in the private Facebook group after this call. And so the offering of that price is good until the end of this month, until the last day of February. And then the price will go up to $297. So right now it's a special at $222. And if you sign up before midnight tomorrow, so midnight on the 27th, I'm going to give you the workbook for free. Otherwise, the workbook is on Amazon for like $20. And I'll mail it to you for free. So if you're in town, I'll obviously give it to you. Otherwise, I'll deliver it to you. Otherwise, I'll mail it to you. And if you have any questions about it, please feel free. I'm available all day tomorrow to talk about it if you have any further questions. In the link, you'll see more details about the program once you click on that link, and it'll show you what the program is about. But I am super excited about this because we're going to have basically we're going to have the second half of March together in this program, and we're really going to work on integrating and bringing that wholeness back into our body and expanding, you know, through some surrender, through some embodiment, through expansion, but really tuning into these 7 energy centers of the body, the 7 chakras. And it's super, super exciting. So I'm really excited to share this with you guys. And I think that's it. That's it for right now. So let me see if there's anything in the chat. Okay. So we've just got some hellos. Expansion, Kimberly says, expansion to me is encompassing and transcending that which I am. And then Catherine's link, Kimberly is asking, oh, yes, I can share that later in the group. Okay, so would anyone like to come on? If you'd like to share anything or ask a question, we still have some time. If you unmute yourself, I'll leave it open.
Hey, Brian here.
Hey, Brian.
Hi. I wanted to share a little more detail about the Omega chart.
Okay.
It was actually started by a guy named David Hawkins.
Okay.
You can look up David Hawkins. He's written several amazing books, none of which are small, none of which are really easy reads. But that Omega chart started off with what he called a map of consciousness. And
Oh.
it took him 30 years and did 25,000 or so muscle tests on hundreds of people over 30 years to develop that chart.
Oh my goodness.
It's pretty intense. Yeah.
That is 30 years to create this. That is powerful.
Yeah. His version has like several more levels and several columns that go with each of the feelings, sort of sub feelings around each of those items on the chart.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fascinating stuff. So I
That
figured
is
I'd
fascinating.
give everybody some more reading around that chart. It's really an amazing chart. And there's a lady named Christy Marie Sheldon. I don't know if you know about her.
I do.
I bought one of her. It's so long ago it was on cassette. Okay, it was on cassette tape. She
Wow.
had a series called Love or Above, which is
Oh,
directly related to that. I think it's like 400, 500, wherever love is on that chart. That was her goal, was to be in a place of love or above.
okay. So you know what? I have heard of Love or Above, but I didn't realize the connection to that chart.
Yeah,
That's really cool. Thank you so much, Brian, for sharing that.
my pleasure.
Kimberly, I wanted to share that I did find the link. I put it in the chat here. I'm also happy to share it in the group if you want, but it is in the chat right now, just so you know. Yeah, Brian, that's awesome. I mean, when you think about that, this took 30 years, that's really powerful. You know, that's basically a life's work to create that chart. And that chart is, you guys can look at it online. It's definitely easy to find. The Omega chart, or the chart of emotions. Brian, what else would it be called? I would say it's the Omega chart, right?
Sorry, I had to figure out how to unmute again on my phone. It was called The Map of Consciousness. If you go to the internet and look up David Hawkins' Map of Consciousness, it'll probably take you to his website, where you can not only buy that chart with all the details on it, but all of his books are available there too.
Okay. I'm putting that in the group chat. Thank you so much, Brian. That's
You bet. Let me
fabulous.
see. I looked it up earlier. I'm not sure how to share,
Okay.
but y'all can look it up. You can look
All
it up.
right.
It's there.
Sounds good. Thank you, Brian.
Stacy,
Yes.
can you hear me? This is Anna.
Hi, Anna.
Hi. What do the numbers actually represent on the Omega chart?
See, that is a good question. Brian said that he went through muscle testing. So I know the only way that I can describe it from my understanding, because I can't really give a great answer for this, is it's just, yeah, I don't even know. It's like the vibration. So like the lower numbers obviously mean a denser vibration, or frequency maybe. And then the higher numbers are a higher vibration, less dense, more light. But yeah, Brian might have the answer.
Kimberly just shared the link. I just saw it sort of pop up on my screen for a sec.
Yeah.
So thank you to Kimberly for that.
Brian, do you know what those numbers represent?
I think it's just a relative scale. But it goes up to 1,000.
Okay.
So
it basically
from like
starts at
0 to 1,000.
to 1,000.
Yeah.
And shame is at 20. So I'm not quite sure what would be below shame, but
I don't know that there is anything worse or denser or rougher than shame. We actually covered a lot of this in our Unity congregation at one point. We spent a few weeks on it. And shame is so horrible because it's internalized. In some of my men's work with this group called Mankind Project, we distinguish between guilt and shame. Like
Mhm.
shame was the stuff that you feel bad about who you are. Guilt is feeling badly
Um,
about something you did, but it's not like inherent in your being.
yes.
That's why shame is like the worst of the worst, and why Brene Brown did so much amazing work around it.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing that, Brian. Yes, guilt and shame. Huge, huge, huge. Yes. And you're right, because guilt is 30 and shame is 20. And you're right, guilt is, I feel guilty for what the action is, but shame is internalizing it. Oh my goodness. That is so, so huge. Thank you.
You bet.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share?
I have another question,
Mm-hmm.
Dana. The 4 agreements that you
Mm-hmm.
talked about, number 4 was always do your best.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of rambled off to escape judgment and 3 or 4 other things that always doing your best would avoid you from feeling, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
The judgment and maybe shame or guilt or something. I can't remember what you said. I just wondered if
Okay.
you could go into that again a little bit.
Sure. So basically, always doing your best is recognizing that in each moment, do the best that you do, and that also understanding that people are operating from their own level of consciousness, their own wounding. So they're doing their best from their own place, which is why boundaries is so key. Um, we didn't talk about boundaries a lot, but boundaries is really recognizing, whether or not you want to have certain people and situations in your life. So always doing your best. I'll read what it says again. What you were just saying is, under any circumstance, simply do your best and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. So basically what that means is, if you recognize that in every moment you've done your best, and you're always doing your best. And as you grow and evolve and expand and become more aware and more conscious, then your best is going to have higher standards, right? But when you knew less, or were less aware, or were more in density, maybe caught in some of these lower vibrations, when you recognize that you were always doing your best, then that's what they mean by you avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret, because you forgive yourself for doing what you did at the time, knowing that you were always doing your best, but that as you continue to grow and expand and evolves, then your best becomes better. That's what I think that they mean by that. It's a summary that I found for the 4 agreements. Um, in the book, I really do recommend reading the book. It'll go into more detail. But really, it just is simply your best moment by moment experience. The past is the past. What you did in the past was your best at the time. You may handle certain situations differently, and your best may look different now. But by recognizing that, then that's what they mean. You avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret by going, okay, I did the best that I knew at that time. And now I know better, and I'm going to do differently. Does that make sense, Anna?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Would anyone else like to share anything? I love it when you guys talk. And if you want to turn your video on when you're talking too, I didn't say this, but I would love to see you as well. But it's totally fine either way. I just want to say thank you to Michael, to Kara, to Kimberly, to Judy, to Anna, to Mom, to Brian, to Jennifer, and to Stacy for being here live with me. This has been a really fun experience. I hope you guys learned some things. I really do love the 4 agreements. Oh, Stacy or Kimberly wrote a few things. Kimberly, do you want to share what you just wrote?
Hi. I just was, as you were talking about the bar agreements, and there too, you can hear my kids. Boys! That's what this is good for, right? Anyways, they're just some things I found online that are from the book itself, just as little resources. And then I think it was Anna asked about the fourth agreement. So there was stuff on the fourth agreement. That's all. Nothing original, regurgitating information to share.
Thank you. That's what I did with the 4 agreements too. No, I appreciate your support, Kimberly. Thank you. Yeah, she also, you put in there, or Kimberly put, the best, your best is going to change from moment to moment. And it will be different when you're healthy as opposed to sick. That's something I didn't say that I think is really good. If you're doing your best, you will feel good about yourself, even if you still make assumptions and still take things personally and are still not impeccable with your word. So that's an interesting thing. So just recognize, do your best. But if you can, going back to what the book said too, if you can just not make assumptions, I think the two to me that I really always think about is don't take anything personally and don't make assumptions. And that alone just opens the door to so much more freedom and expansion and love. Kimberly also added in here, if you do your best always, over and over again, you will become the master of transformation. Yes. And thinking about transformation too, the butterfly is a perfect metaphor for transformation. The butterfly obviously starts as a caterpillar and transforms and grows wings and then can fly. And that's what we are, each and every one of us in our life, experiencing and doing as we grow and evolve. You know, we're spreading our wings, we're opening up more, opening our heart more, shedding more layers, and becoming a higher version of ourselves. You know, and being gentle with yourself through the process, you know, knowing that this truly is a challenging place. It truly is Earth School. It can be very, very dense and very, very hard. But if you can love yourself through it all, and know that you've been always doing your best. Cody says hi. Hi, Cody. Then you forgive yourself, you know. I really encourage the practices that we talked about in the other days, like the mirror practice, a forgiveness practice. I'm going to post that in the group. I haven't done that yet, but I will. It's just a journey. We're on a journey of personal growth and development. Hi, Stacy.
Hi, I just wanted to bring attention to your workbook because I did start it. And it was a very grounding process, you know, all the prompts and the prayers at night. And I just really enjoyed it. And so I just wanted to say thank you for putting it together.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it has a morning and an evening prayer. It has a morning journaling exercise. It has the symbols of the chakras. It has a daily affirmation. It has daily practices, daily rituals and meditation, and evening prayer, and then extension activities. My experience as a therapist has always been, how do we expand, assimilate the practices of what we've learned in therapy, and how do we expand it and apply it practically in life? So I wrote this book with all of that in mind, you know, all of my therapy background and all of my personal experiences. I've been on a self-development growth journey. Well, we all have our whole lives, but for me, studying it, I would say about 20 years now. So.
Yeah, everything was very thought-provoking and well put together, you know, the spiritual and mental, emotional.
Thank you so much, Stacy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there'll be links added in, like I said, for the program that's coming up starting March 16th next month. And I'll put the forgiveness practice and anything else that we might need. If there's anything you guys need, please feel free to reach out to me. And I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. If there's nothing else, then I think we'll end it there. And I hope you have a beautiful evening. And namaste means through the light in you, I honor and see the light in me. So if we can just go through the world starting to see each human being as a soul, honoring the light first within ourselves, and then we can see the light in each and every person, and recognizing that the wounded people, the mean people are acting from their wounds. And you be the light, you be love, you be presence, and you have clear boundaries, you use your discernment, you use your intuition, and you live from an expansive place of love, and then everything shifts. All right, you guys. Sending you so much love. Signing off for now. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.